What's going on, y'all? Today we got LeBron James versus Michael Jordan, who face tougher competition or tougher finals opponents. See, I try to not look at it. But yeah, man, let's get right into it. Last reaction at the end of the video. Stay tuned.
How's it going, witnesses? LeBron Factory back with another video. First things first, I just want to say I appreciate all the love and support that I've been getting throughout all social media outlets lately. Without you guys, this platform wouldn't be possible. We're growing super fast every single day, especially here on YouTube. With all the LeBron hate that's cluttered here, it was only right that an empire rises up with true facts. If you're new to this channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell button notification to stay on top of all the
This video from like 2 years ago.
Let's get right into it.
So
LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. Who faced the tougher competition, particularly in the finals? With the epic documentary The Last Dance being showcased around these days, it's only sparked the heated debate right back up. One of the key arguments that is often heard in this debate is who faced the better competition. In this video, we're going to take a look at the competition, but specifically finals competition. While one stand typically slanders the other, they do so with the majority of bias emotion and not logic. Jordan reached 6 NBA finals during his career,
both ways,
and as we all know, was victorious in all 6 of his trips. But let's really zoom in. Out of the 5 teams Jordan faced, 4 of the teams never won a championship. And the one team that did was his first opponent, the Lakers. The Lakers team that Jordan faced still had Magic Johnson, a 5-time NBA champion. But they were also missing a big chunk of showtime. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a 6-time NBA champion, Michael Cooper, a 5-time NBA champion, and Kurt Rambis, a 4-time NBA champion. In fact, that 91 Lakers squad had 7 new players that wasn't a part of Showtime in the 80s. Oh, and of course, they were also missing their leader and head coach, Pat Riley. I think you've heard of him. To that point, while those teams that Jordan faced had 1 or 2 extremely talented players, none of them had incredibly talented rosters. Between the 5 teams Jordan encountered, there were only a total of 7 Hall of Famers on them, and not much else. Tim Duncan, who had already 2 titles and 2 MVPs under his name, was loaded. 3 future Hall of Famers and one of the greatest head coaches of all time, Greg Popovich. They steamrolled. Jordan's second opponent.
Yo, bro, get it together.
This matchup had the making to be Jordan's toughest.
Come on, man. Nah, let me chill. Because my joke be doing that sometimes. But I be replacing the song, if anything. You know? Just so it don't cut out. Because that's fake crazy. You just look crazy when you cut out like that.
Had in terms of having to be ready to take on
once I got you.
Coming dynasties that the NBA will ever see. The second option was Terry Porter, who at the time was a 15-point-per-game player and had 1 All-Star appearance under his belt. The talent gap was pretty wide in this series. The Blazers had some solid role players: Buck Williams, Jerome Kersey, Cliff Robinson, a 32-year-old Danny Ainge, and Kevin Duckworth. But solid would probably be the greatest compliment I'll give them here. They combined for a total of 7 All-Star appearances altogether. LeBron's second finals matchup is a matchup that most LeBron fans get insecure to talk about. We all know of the shortcomings, and we all wonder what the hell happened to LeBron that series. But in this video, we're taking a look at the team that was wearing the other uniform. And what most people don't point out is, the Mavs team was awfully good. Before beating the Heat, they swept the defending champs of the prior year, Kobe and the Lakers. They also ran through a juggernaut in OKC and an up-and-coming team in Portland. The Mavs were no joke. They were led by an all-time great Dirk Nowitzki and a group of guys that tend to get overlooked. Veterans like future Hall of Famer Jason Kidd and borderline Hall of Famer Shawn Marion, Tyson Chandler, who won the Defensive Player of the Year that season, Caron Butler, Jason Terry, J.J. Barea, Corey Brewer, and pesky Deshaun Stevenson. They also had a flamethrower in Peja Stojakovic. The Mavs were 57-25 that season, 3 games shy of 60 wins. They also had one of the greatest coaching staffs that tend to get overlooked: Rick Carlisle, Dwayne Casey, and Terry Stotts, whom are all head coaches right now. Oh, and a coach on the floor in Jason Kidd. The Phoenix Suns come in as Jordan's third opponent, led by the all-time great and MVP that year, Charles Barkley, and a solid number 2 option in Kevin Johnson. We all know about Barkley. So let's jump into the rest of the crew. Johnson, an 18.4 point per game player up to that point, and a two-time All-Star, was peaking in his career. But all 6'1" of him was a little overmatched against his airness at 6'6". Though the Suns also had Dan Marley to throw at Jordan, who was also a solid player, and at the time averaging 13.9 points per game for his career, was still greatly overmatched. The Suns had a veteran ball club much like the Mavs of 2011, with key role players like Danny Ainge, Tom Chambers, whom both were on the decline, still had enough help to propel the Suns to an NBA Finals. The Suns had the #1 offensive rating that season, and the #9 defensive rating. But there's a thing that gets overlooked. The West was much like today's East, looked upon as the weaker conference. That year, there was a 23-game difference from the 1-seed Suns and the 8th-seed Lakers, who were under 500 at 39-43, but still made the playoffs. LeBron's third opponent was a team that was featuring 3 big-time future Hall of Famers and 3 big-time future league MVPs, including a 7-foot shooting monster who has all-time top 5 talent. The Young Thunder squad had promised to Destin, but unfortunately, the Super Teams era was in full effect. OKC built the right way and were blessed to have KD, Russ Westbrook, and James Harden all on the same roster. They were also loaded with role players like Serge Ibaka, who's an NBA champ now in his own right, Big Perk, who is also an NBA champ, Thabo Sefolosha, Nick Collison, and of course 5-time NBA champ Derek Fisher. This young team wasn't playing around. They had the #2 offensive rating that season and the #9 defense. In a lockout year, they gained the #1 seed out in the tougher Western Conference, which they also defeated the defending champs in a revenge series in a 4-0 sweep. They also defeated Kobe and the Lakers in a 4-1 gentleman's sweep, and they defeated the mighty Spurs 4-2 in the Western Conference Finals. In fact, OKC was favored to beat Miami in those NBA Finals. I think it's safe to say, with the likes of Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Kevin Durant, Jordan had yet to face anything like that in that realm, especially the head-to-head matchup KD gave LeBron. Jordan's fourth opponent had a great duel and a great coach. Unfortunately, that's about all they had. Chicago went 72-10 that season. Gary Payton and the Sonics had no chance. Though Gary Payton gave Jordan struggles, holding him to 27 points per game on 41% shooting, the Bulls just had overwhelming talent, and that was too much for Seattle to bear. After Gary Payton and Shawn Kemp, the roster got extremely thin. Guys like Def Leppard Shrimp, Hersey Hawkins, Sam Perkins, Nate McMillan, and a guy named Eric Snow that sat all the way in the back of the bench. Shawn Kemp would go on to be a disaster in the league, and his career cut short. Gary Payton was the only true great player, mainly known for his defense. The glove was still no match for MJ and the Bulls. LeBron's fourth opponent and fifth would go on to be an old foe, and still with Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili at the helm, led by, of course, Coach Greg Popovich. But there was now a new man in town that goes by the name of Kawhi Leonard. The Heat went on to beat the Spurs in a dramatic fashion in 2013. But the Spurs were too much for them in 2014. Loaded once again, this time with younger, fresher talent, the Spurs steamrolled the Heat in 5. There was a changing of the guard as well, from Duncan to Kawhi. And once again, a solid cast of role players. With Kawhi, the Spurs had 4 future Hall of Famers, and also another player who could match up with Bron blow for blow. Jordan's last opponent is considered by many his toughest. The Jazz went 64-18 in 1997 and 62-20 in 1998. They were the cream of the crop out west, led by 2 veteran Hall of Famers Stockton and Malone, whose chemistry was like none other. A solid cast of role players, the Jazz peaked at an uncommon time. You see, teams usually peak earlier in their primes, but this Jazz squad peaked later. Stockton, who was 34-35 years old at the time, and Malone 33-34, still had enough in the tank to boost their 2 great seasons late. No longer as athletic, Malone won the MVP in 97 and was still a skilled force. Stockton, known for his passing ability, was nothing more than that and a scrappy defender at this time. Physically overmatched, there was no way this Hall of Famer could guard MJ. So the Jazz had to rely on veteran Jeff Hornacek and Byron Russell, not necessarily your KDs and Kawhi of the world. What's not mentioned is how easy the West remained in the 90s. Though the Jazz were a force, in 1997, the 6th seed and down were all under 500. Even the horrible Clippers made the playoffs that year as the 8th seed at 34-46. 1998 wasn't that much better. No takeaway from the
There was
Bulls.
less teams
They
back
went on
then
to
too,
finish
though,
their
so
three-peat again.
that comes into
This
play.
brings on LeBron's last finals opponent, the Golden State Warriors. What's there to be said? Arguably the greatest team ever assembled in 2017 and 18 with the addition of Kevin Durant. The 2016 squad still featured 3 Hall of Famers in Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. Steph and Klay, as we know, the greatest shooting backcourt in NBA history. And Steph Curry just might go down as one of the top 10 players of all time. The Warriors were always loaded with bodies to throw LeBron's way. Andre Iguodala, who won Finals MVP in 2015, Klay Thompson, who's arguably their most versatile defender, and of course Draymond Green. I don't think you can name me 2 players, let alone 1 player, on one single team who had the physicality and capabilities to match up with Michael Jordan in any of his finals matchups. With the Warriors, make it 4 with the addition of Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Dirk Nowitzki, Jason Kidd, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker. I mean, the list goes on and on of great talent that LeBron had to face. Though LeBron only holds 3 championships, the teams he's defeated in the finals are collectively better than what Jordan ever faced. Each team LeBron beat in the finals had a minimum of 3 players that would likely end up in the Hall of Fame. LeBron is also playing in an era after 2014 where the defense may be less physical, but the offense is much more explosive. The teams LeBron faced were not only designed to slow him down, but they had the roster capabilities to actually try and do it. LeBron was an underdog 7 out of 9 tries. Jordan was never an underdog. LeBron was a part of one 60-win team in 2013
That's not true.
that made it to the finals. Jordan was a part of 4 60-win teams, including a 72-win team.
That's not true. That's not true. That's not. This is very biased. I definitely understand that. As a LeBron fan, I could tell that bias is in here. You know what I'm saying? This is from the LeBron factory. But yeah, he said something. They was always the favorite. Nah, I heard those Indiana Pacers, that Indiana Pacers team was the favorite when they played against them. I don't know if that. I'm pretty sure that was the finals. I'm not too sure, but yeah. Let me know how y'all feel about this. I already know y'all probably not gonna fuck with this one. He was being biased as hell. That's what I'm saying. I understand though. I understand, man. If y'all enjoyed though, make sure you click on the last reaction on your screen right now. Turn on post notifications. Links in the description, man. And I'm out here.